Recently, I saw a picture of a nightstand end table that I really liked. It was really a cool little design, and today, with the cherry that I have milled in front of me, we're going to do my interpretation of that little table. I did a little drawing of some of the things we need to get started on it. It has a curved leg off to the side. The blank that we need to make for our leg is 4 inches wide and 22 inches high, and we're going to get started there by gluing that up. It's going to be 1.5 inches thick, and we've milled our lumber to 3/4, so we're going to have to glue those up. We've indicated our top and our shelf side. Top here, shelf here. This is our little face frame that goes in there, and we'll get to those things in just a minute, but let's get started gluing up the legs. Have milled my wood to 4.5 by 23 inches long, so that as I glue that together, I can cut it down to the exact size I want after the glue is dry. I've also created a pattern, a little template for my leg, and we'll show you that template when we get ready to get cutting out. We're just spreading ample amounts of glue on 1/2 of each glue up of each leg, and we're going to glue them together in pairs. So just like this, and then that, and then this, that. And now you can see how we're gluing up all 4 legs at one time. And we'll put 2 clamps on the bottom and 1 clamp on the top. The object is to apply even pressure everywhere to make sure that our glue is evenly spread. We didn't spread our glue, and we really don't need to most of the time, because the pressure itself will spread the glue. And we're going to put a clamp on each end of this stack, because I really want the ends of my legs to really be glued up really good and solid, with the glue squeezing out everywhere. Now we'll go around and we'll tighten up all the clamps evenly. You can see we're already starting to get the squeeze out that we need to have everywhere. And so there's our 4 legs all glued up at once. We'll set this aside and move on to the next. While we're waiting for our legs to glue up, we want to glue up our top and our shelf because they're wider than my board is in width. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut, these are the 3 pieces that I have set aside for my top and my shelf, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut those to the sizes that I need and get those ready to glue up, because when my legs come out of clamps, I'll have my tops and my shelf ready to go into clamp. Okay, gluing these 2 pieces together will create our top. So let's mark this like this, and then let's write top on it. Then this piece with the other cutoff is enough to create our shelf. We're now, while we have the legs in the clamp and we have our tops glued, ready to glue up, we're going to work on our little face frame. Now, just to give you an idea, let's see, let me grab my marker here. This is 6 inches from here to here. From this point to this point is 4.5 inches. So there's 1 inch, and I realize I'm writing backwards, but there's 1.5 inch arc in that bottom rail piece that we're going to be doing. So we've got to make that bottom piece, And so what I did is I cut out, my face frame is 19 inches wide. I cut a piece of 19-inch wide wood. We're going to be cutting or measuring from the bottom point on both edges and our 1.5 inches up. And we're going to just take a stick and bend it like this, and then draw a line. This takes 2 people, by the way, and I'm just going to show you how we do it. I'm going to turn it around here so you can see it better. You take your stick, you bend it, you put one end on the point and one end on the point, and then you create your arc to your lines, and then you draw your line connecting all of your points, and that gives you the perfect arc. Then we'll do the same thing to create the top part. We've measured up, and by the way, I changed the size. I made my bottom rail 7/8, and so I've measured up 7/8, and I've measured up 7/8, and I've measured up 7/8 from my original marks. And I'll just set my stick on my 7/8 marks, and then I'll draw a line. We created our template for our legs the same way. We took a piece of 1/4 inch material, we cut it 22 inches long, we cut it 4 inches wide, we marked our distances that we wanted to have, and then we just bent our stick like that and drew our line, and that's how we created the template for our legs. Same way. So let's go ahead, mark our lines, and then I'll show you how we're going to cut this out and make our little face frame. You can see now with our little stick we have drawn both of our lines. This is our bottom rail to our face frame. Our top rail will just be a piece of straight stock, and there'll be a piece of straight stock to the middle. Part of the reason that I made this 7/8 is the distance to the top of that arc on my board is 2 3/8. And I'm going to cut that at just a 1/16 of an inch less than that, and that's going to create a little flat top, or a little flat spot on the top of my arch for my center board to connect into, so that I have a nice flat square joint. And that is the reason that I did it, was to create a joint that was a nice square flat joint. And so what I'm going to do now, take this over to the saw and cut all this out, cut our top piece, and then we'll go to the bandsaw and actually cut our arches on our bandsaw and then sand them to the line on our edge sander. With our pieces cut out now, you can start to see our face frame cut together. This is our centerpiece. It'll go right here, and then we'll finish cutting our arch and sanding it on the bandsaw and on the edge sander. And so now you can kind of see how that all came together. You can see now our little face frame coming together. I wanted to show you the little flat spot that I created. When I cut this piece off across here, it created a flat spot here. We sanded to our line, and that's our nice sanded line here. And then as we put our little face frame together, I have a nice flat spot there to create my joint so that there's no gap there. What we do when we line it up is I always take just a wide board like this. I kind of line up my pieces like this where I've got to have them, and then by putting the wide board there, I know that my edges are going to line up correctly when we go ahead and get it put together. Now, this piece we need to measure here and mark this so that we're exactly centered, and then I'm just going to put this together by using an 18 gauge 1.5 inch nail and nailing from top and bottom and putting glue on it and a clamp, and that will be our little face frame. There's our little face frame. Like I say, we're going to throw a clamp on that while the glue dries, and then we'll sand it and clean it up with clean off all of the pencil marks. But you can see that that is going to be a cute little face frame. There'll be a drawer face here that will follow the profile of our opening. Going back to our drawing here, you can see now we have our face frame. Looks just like the picture. We've got that ready to glue up. We've got that ready to glue up. We've got this glued up. We're going to create a box behind our face frame for our drawers. We're not going to build our drawers at an angle. We're going to build our drawers just square. So our drawer is going to be like this. Our drawer face is going to be like that. So we've got to create a box here that will allow our drawer to fit in there behind our drawer face. Also, in between the front and back leg, we've got to have a side panel to our little box that we're going to make. Our side panel is going to be the length of our face frame. So our face frame is 6 inches from here to here, and we're going to have a little side panel out here that is also going to be 6 inches. By checking our measurements, we're 10 and 5/8 from front leg to back leg, and so we need 2 pieces, 10 and 5/8, well, 6 inches by 10 and 5/8. And we're going to cut those out of this piece of lumber that we have right in here that we've already milled. So let's go ahead and make our 2 side panels now. Okay, here's our 2 side panels cut out. We've cut up those out and just gave them a rough sand. We're going to set those off the side. In the meantime, our legs that we had all clamped up, they've dried and have come out of clamps. And I clamped up my shelf and my top. So those are in clamps now. Nice squeeze out like we showed, and they're drying. And let's go ahead and let's start working on our legs. That's the most important thing we've got to work on right now, because we've got to get 4 legs cut to size, cut with curves, sanded and routed. There's a lot of work on a leg. Our leg that we have glued up is a little less than 4.5, and it's 23 inches long. We've got to cut these to 4 by 22. So watch as we size them all, and we'll do that on the table saw and on the chop saw. We now have our leg sections all cut to size. You can see they're 1.5 inches thick, they're 4 inches wide, they're 22 inches long, and here is our template that we cut, also out of a 4 by 22 inch piece. We line it up flush with the side piece here, and down at the bottom, we make it flush at the top so that everything all matches evenly. Then we take a really good sharp pencil and we mark our line front and back. And that's how that turns out. And then what we'll do is we'll take step to our bandsaw, we'll take this piece off and this piece off, and then we'll take it to our edge sander and sand to our line. Now, if you don't have an edge sander, if you're building this table and you don't have an edge sander, you can do these sand to the line, you can do that with a oscillating spindle sander and get just as nice an edge. I just happen to have a nice edge sander, and so that's what I'm going to be using. Okay, you can see that's what we have to do, cut on our legs like that and then sand to the line like I talked about. We'll go ahead and get the rest of them cut. All right, we now have our leg all cut, and we're going to edge sand it on our edge sander. Well, you can start to see how it's going to look a little bit. We've got our legs cut to size. Here's our little face frame. It's going to go together like that. So that's kind of the overall look of our table. One thing we're going to do before we do that, however, we have cut and sanded our legs. But one thing that I have learned over the years is that even though you do whole bunches of things right at the very same time, it's not always exactly the same. And so I'm going to do a little trick that I have, and that's I'm going to line my multiple pieces up here, and I'm going to get them exactly where they need to be as far as level and cut and everything. And I'm going to take my palm sander and I'm going to sand all of these edges so that they all match. They don't have to be perfect, they just have to match. Because when they match, then your piece of furniture is a better piece of furniture. And I'll do the same thing on this side, on the inside curve. I'll take my palm sander and I'll sand those. Not only that, is our edge sander had a rough belt on it, a 100 grit belt, and we're going to sand down to 150 on our cherry. We'll sand our curves and we'll end up with better, more consistent measurements and profiles on our legs before we're all done. And I'll just sand those out while we're waiting for some other things and get those all perfectly. Oh, they're looking good. I'm getting excited. This is going to be a great piece. With our legs all sanded, our next step is to put a 3/16 round over on all of the edges of our legs, just like that. The next thing that we'll be doing is to build the box portion of our table, and the side pieces that we've already cut out have to have pocket holes on the back side. We're now getting ready to make the box section of our table where the drawers will go. Remember, we made side panels and we've drilled those for our pocket holes. One of the things, we've determined that our front and back leg will be separated 10 5/8. This is the length of our box to allow for our face frame to go in here, and it's a little bit longer than our face frame. And I'm going to set this leg here so that you kind of get an idea of what we're trying to do. This leg, now this is upside down, and we need a little spacer right there because our face frame is going to be forward on our leg by this distance of this little spacer that we're putting in. So you can kind of see how this is coming together a little bit. We're going to go ahead and complete this is the floor of our box. We're going to have two pieces the same way for the top, and like I say, this is upside down. These will be our stretchers that will go across the top of our box that will be anchoring our top to our hanging cleat. And so we're going to go ahead and put all these pieces together by first attaching these little spacer blocks to the front and the back of our box, and then there'll be also the same little spacer piece will be on our hanging cleat so that our spacing is done correctly. And you'll see how this comes together, but I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to nail on these little pieces. Our spacer block and our bottom will look like this on the ends. We've measured in 3/4 of an inch and we've nailed on this little 1/2 inch spacer piece. We'll do that to other block there, and then we'll do it here to our bottom, to the bottom of our drawer box section. So we'll just lay that in here, we'll glue and nail, and it'll give us this effect just like that. And so let's just show you how we're doing that. We'll stand it up on edge, we'll put a little glue on it. I have it turned my way so I can see my little marks, and we'll set it right there at the 3/4 inch mark, and we're just using 1 1/4 18 gauge brads. We're just going to give it 4 nails along the top there, and you can see how that creates this notch effect that will allow for our legs to fit in this way like this. So that's what that little notch is for. Okay, we're going to get ready to assemble our box. I want to just talk a little bit about this is just some pre-glued pine panel stock that we're going to use for the interior of our box. It's, let's see, I think it's 5/8. Yes, it's 5/8 of an inch thick, and we've cut it to the size now that we wanted. I've attached our little end pieces to, or our little spacer pieces to the end to create the bump out for the back and the face frame on the front. So these pieces will go like this. This is the top now. This is upside down. This is our end piece. It's going to be glued on, or nailed on just like this and this. Same down here, and that will create the top of our box. Then our bottom of our box will be nailed in here, and we'll get to that in just a minute. Let's go ahead and get our top. These are hanging cleats. So as we turn our cabinet over, this is where we'll put screws through to anchor our top. But let's go ahead and get this part nailed together. I'm gonna just put this flush to my workbench here so that I can keep that top flush. We're using 1.5" 18 gauge nails, no glue. And one of the reasons I'm not using glue is so that if there's any adjustment that needs to be made, I can be sure to make that. Because we want that top to be perfectly flat. Okay, there's one side. Are doing our little adjustment there. Okay, there's our other side. Pull it square. We've made sure that all our cuts are square so that as we nail our top together, as we nail our pieces together, that we're square. So that's the way it will look, just right there. Okay, all right. Now we'll get ready to nail the bottom of our box in, and we'll put that like this. It will fit in here like this, like there. And I made a couple of little spacer pieces so that I knew exactly where I wanted to be. This is going to be the height of our drawer box. Now, I think it was 3 1/8. Excuse me, 3 1/16. So 3 1/16, and we'll put a piece on that side there, and a piece on this side in here, and hold it. This bottom will be flush with our side, and I'll show you why in just a minute, because there's another little, see how we've added this piece? We've got a little extra special deal there. And again, 18 gauge 1.5" nail. I'm going to turn it around here and get another nail right in there. Oop, my spacer fell. Again. I need 2 extra hands. Okay, there we are. And again. Let's just get busy here. All right. Now, we've got 2 nails in that side. We're going to turn it over this way. We're going to bring our spacer block out here and here. Okay. And that is our little box that will house our drawers, and our face frame will fit over the top of a little box like that. Now, the reason I wanted to go this far and show you this is you can see we have a problem, because our box does not go all the way down to the bottom of our face frame, and so if you opened your drawer, pull your drawer out, you would be able to see through a hole here. We're not going to allow that to happen. So what we've done is we've made a little cherry spacer block that is going to be nailed on here, and we've marked a line, and we'll cut on the inside of that line so it hides behind our face frame. We'll nail that to our box and sand it, and that will become the additional spacer to hold our face frame like that, and create a finished piece so that there's no gap. Okay, we have our box section all put together. These are our ends. Here's where our drawers will go. This is how our little face frame fits on. We'll line those up with our little spacer pieces that we had. We're going to nail the top part on, and then we're going to flip it over, and we're just going to put a staple in the back side of this little piece right here so that we don't have any nails through the front. And what that'll do is that will give us our face frame attached, and then that makes everything ready for the legs. And you can start to see how this is going to come together. A little glue across the top there, and then just a little teeny bit of glue down there. We don't want to have any squeeze out at all, because that's just that much more we have to sand out. 18 gauge 1.5" nails for the top part of our face frame. Okay, that's right where we want to be. And then, like I say, we're going to flip it over like this. We're going to get this all lined up and just use some 3/4 inch staples in here to staple it. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to pull and get this lined up. In fact, before I do that, what I think I better do is make sure this should be 6 inches. We're 5 7/8 right there, and we're 6 inches here, so we need to divide that difference. It needs to be 5 15/16 right there, and flush with the end of our little 1/2 inch piece, and we're right there. And I'm going to put my staple from the back side, and then I'm going to do the same thing here. 5 15, right where it's supposed to be. Whoop. And we're not exactly flush, so I'm going to push this down here a little bit to center it. Here's that adjustment we were talking about. Okay, again, let's check our 5 15, and we are. And a staple from the back side, and there is our face frame attached. Okay, now when we get ready to put our legs on, and we're going to putty and sand this first, we get ready to put our legs on, we'll put our legs here, and that's where our pocket holes come into play, because our front leg is attached with that pocket, with those pocket holes from the inside. It's getting close. Well, we're all done with our box, and we've sanded it all. We've got our sides on, we've got our face frame on, we've sanded everything to 150. We also went back and sanded the legs, completed our sanding on the legs to 150. So they're ready, and they're ready to go in just like this. And the way we're going to do that, we're going to tip it upside down like this. And we're going to take, let's see, let's look for a nice front leg. There we are, right there, like that. We're going to do, whoop, 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 whoop. We'll position our leg, and we're going to put on a clamp. We're going to make sure everything's up tight against our face frame there, and tighten our clamp so that it holds it right where we want to hold it. And then we're going to turn it around here, and I'm going to show you that's where we're going to put our pocket screws. Let me turn it like this. There, now you can see it better. And we're going to put some pocket screws in there like that. We can put one okay, this is not as easy as I thought it was going to be. We got one screw here, and we're going to have to get a longer driver to get in there with that pocket screw. And we'll put the other pocket screw in place there. And then we just have to slide our drill in there like that. This is a okay. All right. And that will attach our legs like that. We'll go ahead and get all the other three legs put on. Come back, take a look. With the main portion of our table put together, you can see everything's come together real nice. We're ready for the top and the shelf. Though we'll get those sanded out. We got those glued up, and now we'll sand them out. And the top, of course, top shelf goes down about right here. We'll cut those to size, and I'll show you how those get put in. Well, we're getting ready to do the final assembly part of the pieces that we've been sanding. One of the pieces was our drawer faces, and I made my drawer faces to fit inside here. The way I did it is I laid my face frame down on a board, traced around, cut out my drawer faces, sanded them. I put an 1/8 inch round over on the inside of my face frame and an 1/8 inch round over on my drawer face so that it has a very nice looking drawer face. The next thing that we'll assemble on it is our shelf. Our shelf will go down about this height right here. Here's our shelf. We've attached some mounting cleats with pocket holes. We'll just put that in. And I've made a spacer to space the distance from the bottom of my box down to the top of my shelf. Let's lay our table on its back, like this. We'll set our spacer in like this. Then we'll set our shelf in like this. Our shelf is the width of the distance between the legs. I've positioned our shelf now and put it in place. So now we'll anchor the one side of the shelf with 2 pocket screws into the legs. And then we'll flip our table over and do the same thing on the front side. Well, now we have our shelf installed. We're going to bring our top, and I want to show you the top. Here's our top piece right here. I wanted our top to be a little thicker, and so what I did is I put a build-up on the back side. Our top is 3/4 of an inch thick, and I did a 5/8 build-up, so I have almost 1.5 inches thick top. I nailed it on so that it was I was able to create a thick-looking top. I positioned it in such a way that I kept my end grain showing out, so when we put a finish on it, it all looks like it's going to be one solid thick piece of wood. We're going to lay this top down, and then we're going to turn our cabinet upside down and lay it on top of it, and just put some screws through our hanging cleat into our top, and our top will be installed. We did the same thing as far as our curve on our top. We just made a template and flipped it back and forth and put us a round edge on the ends of our top so that it has a nice decorative look to it that matches our shelf. Here we'll do this like that. And we'll roll our table over like that. And then I'll just take some screws and screw through our hanging cleat to anchor our top. To center our top, what I did was I took a piece of material and I used that for my spacer front to back, and then I measured from the edges in to center my cabinet on the top. 2 5/8 and 2 5/8 and 2 5/8, right about there. Again, just checking my spacing. Okay, right about there. And then what we'll do is we'll put some 1¼ grabbers through our hanging cleat, not through the face frame. This is our face frame, but our hanging cleat is the piece of pine that is in the back of it. We'll put 3 grabbers up front, and then we'll turn it around. And we'll put 3 grabbers in the back, like this. And our top is now tied to our cabinet. And let's see how it looks. Take our spacer stick off of there. Looking good. The finish that we're going to put on this is going to make this cherry grain just pop. You'll want to see that. We worked with several colors as we were deciding what kind of finish to put on our end table. We decided at the very end just to put on a clear lacquer and bring that natural beauty of cherry out. We're going to wait for this to dry, give it a soft sand and a second coat, and if it needs it, we'll even give it a third coat. It depends on how the lacquer builds up, but this is going to be the finish on our table. It's going to be beautiful. Now, while we have our lacquer drying on our end tables, we're going to go ahead and build the little drawers, and they're just very simple little drawers. There's no drawer guides because the drawers are so small there's not even room for a drawer guide, and they're going to go together just like this. They'll have a 1/4 inch bottom nailed on the bottom, and that's all there is to it. They're very simple. We're just going to nail this together with 1.5 inch 18 gauge nails. On a butt joint, just like that. Once we have our drawer box nailed together, we nail our bottoms on with just 3/4 inch small crown staples. Once we're done with our staples, we just take a sanding block and we just knock off the rough edges so that it slides in and out of our drawer opening nice and smooth. Just like that, and that's all there is to it. Now our drawer is ready to go in the cabinet. Let's bring the cabinet up if it's dry, and let's put them in. Well, it's come out of the paint shop and it's just gorgeous. Our little drawer boxes that we're making fit in here just like that. Just for size wise, they're 10.5 inches deep and they're 9 inches wide, which is the size of our opening. And so we're going to slide our little drawer boxes in here like this. Now let's go get our drawer faces from the paint shop and see if our drawer faces look as good as our cabinet. Oh, isn't that going to look wonderful? Wow, I love that natural color of cherry. It's just so beautiful, and that lacquer makes that grain just stand out. It's just gorgeous. Well, we've got to mount our drawer faces on our drawers, and then we have just a real nice little handle to put on there so that we can actually get in our drawers. Not like this. There we are. These are the little handles that we're going to be using for our drawer faces, and they'll be sitting just like this. But we determined that it was sticking out too far. So what we are going to do is we're going to countersink the stem of our hardware so that the bar part is closer to the drawer face and doesn't stick out quite so much. We're doing that with a small Forstner bit that is the same diameter as the shaft of our hardware. And we did that hole like that. Okay, let's do that. We're getting ready now to attach our drawer face to our drawer. We're going to turn our drawer face upside down. We know that our drawer takes up the most of the back side of our drawer face. So what we're going to do is we're going to center our drawer face on our drawer, or our drawer on our drawer face, excuse me. And then we're going to bring it down so that it's like 1/8 of an inch lower than the drawer face itself, which gives me an equal distance all the way around. This is kind of a guess, and the reason it's that way is because we're not using any drawer guides. If there was a drawer guide, we'd know exactly where we're going to go. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put, this is 5/8 inch thick material. We're going to put a 1-inch staple on both sides of our drawer face, and that just gives it a temporary attachment. And we're going to slide our drawer in there, and this allows us to move it around if we need to. See, now we're a little high on this side, so we're going to take our rubber hammer and we're just going to bump that down a little bit. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take my drawer handle, and we're not going to attach it just yet, but it fits real tight in the hole that we drilled with our Forstner bit, and we're just going to tap it in there with our rubber mallet. To give us something to hold on to while we position our drawer. And again, like I say, we're still a little high on this side over here. By only having one staple in, that allows us the opportunity to move our drawer face around as we need to. And we're just really kind of right there. Still just a little sticky on the top side. Again, just a tap. Oh, there's what we're looking for right there. Now, that's the way we're going to position our drawer faces. Right, just like that. Now, when we get all done doing that part, what we do is we take our drawer face out, or our drawer handle out. We'll drill our pilot hole the rest of the way through into our drawer and put the bolt that holds our handle on, and that will hold our drawer face the right place. And we'll put an additional staple in the back side of our drawer to anchor it securely. Well, we've completed our little end table, and it turned out great. I love cherry, and that clear finish on cherry that we decided on, that was the right choice, because it really makes that beautiful cherry grain just stand out. This is a wonderful little project and a great addition to anybody's home, and you can build one just like it as you follow along with us here on Woodworking with Wes.